Bill Gorey, Ace Motors. Recently, we've sent an order with a lot of items, including cams and a set of our stainless steel valves. Now, we're going to have to get more of everything, but in a way, that's pretty good news. I wanted to go over for a certain someone who's in a certain part of a place called Australia. And he's got a set of Ace Performance cams. And he's going to get head work done too. So he'll be eventually setting this up. And considering my own massive failures at being able to install and set pairs of cams, I thought there's a few things that maybe we could get him to avoid that I ran straight into. Now, one thing I didn't run into was the little O-ring on the oil pump. Now, when you have your cams and they're camming, right along with them is a plastic gear. That gear runs the oil pump. Now, what that oil pump has is a press fit against the outer crankcase case. And in there is a little O-ring, and he won't tell you, hey, I'm here, don't forget about me. So that's not good for remembering it. So I'm remembering to tell you, look at that little O-ring and either leave it there because maybe it likes sitting in the oil, or make sure you take it, keep it, and then don't lose it. So when you button everything up with that right side outer case, you're going to seal the oil feed with that O-ring. Now, the cams, I'll assume if you're going to install them, you've seen maybe a bunch of poorly made videos. You've looked at a service manual or two. I have the usual Royal Enfield, product, as well as a Haynes manual, and they'll show you things. But setting up these eccentric fitted cams in their shafts is somewhat of an art or a disaster looking to happen, depending on whether or not you can get it right. And when you have the dots lined up on the gears for your cams, I'm not going to show you that because this is pretty easy to access pictures and explanations. Basically, it's where your cams are in position with top dead center of your piston. Now, when you are at TDC and your dots are all lined up, there's two things you're going to work with now. One is your little washers, and in addition to your washers, there's these little nuts, and you can see them here. They've got their little flat side. They're not hex like a normal, and you can tighten down the cams, pushing the gears into one another so that not only the nuts won't back off, but you won't be able to turn over your motor. So that's a position I was in. You don't want to be there. Now, one thing I did see was a bunch of movies where I could not understand a single word that was being said. And a lot of times you couldn't really see so well either. So, working better than that, I found one video. And I could at least see what was going on. And I, having tried to get that cam set right, I could see that I was close, but not close enough to getting them right. And I finally understood two words that a YouTuber said: set point. When you get the cams so tight they can't move, there's no wiggle room, you've gone past the set point. Now, if you loosen the nuts, the lockdown nuts, you will then be able to hear the little movement, feel it, maybe hear it, and back off. Don't go nuts on tightening up. It's a gentle torque, and do it with both of them, and then you get to rotate the motor. Now, once you've rotated that motor, if it's too tight, if there's resistance, your original set point was too tight. So you get to move the motor around back to top dead center. Now you can set them up again, looking for a slightly looser set point. And it's not so much what you're getting and how they feel and look and sound while they're actually being adjusted. Because what's going to happen is you are going to tighten up the nuts after you set them to lock them down. And if they've locked up, like I said, your set point and your torque down too much, keep backing off and then torquing down. And when you reach a happy place where your cams are freely moving but not excessively loose, you're about as good as it can get. There's machinists and fellas who have worked with machinists with Royal Enfield cams, and a big word is off center. And another big word, two words, another big word is eccentric. So you're not going to make these things as perfect as you like, because they aren't built as, the design isn't as maybe perfect. But somehow Royal Enfields have been clicking by hundreds of thousands of miles on the good old cams. Now I've got a pair here. Now this is a stock setup with the centrifugal. That's the exhaust, and here's one without the centrifugal, and this is the intake. So when you're dealing with these fellas, there they are, you can get them just right, but it will not necessarily the way you feel them getting right as you adjust them. You will have to trust by continued efforts. That's when you finally torque them down. Then when they're as good as you can get them after you've torqued them down, that's, you hit your set point, and now you're ready to put everything back together and go ride. So I hope this helps, and I can have you seen the parts, and this is a happy sheet here. I've got the O-ring from a parts fiche and the shim and the nut. Now don't go nuts with your nut and your shim. It's these things are not as high torque as you may think, and it's no fun buying extras because you beat up the ones you had. So I hope this will save you some grief and get your bullet running or your CGT 535. See ya.